Hey guys, so like I promised, I wanted to talk to you guys about my experience with the Galactics, my Galactic Family, which is technically your Galactic Family too. We're all connected in a oneness, but I just wanted to talk about my experience with them the other night and yesterday, and just explain, and because this is a really good way to help explain as to why it's important that we learn to control our minds. Because the thing is remember, we make our reality, and energy plays as we allow it to. And anything that doesn't feel good is illusion. This is one reason why spirit doesn't actually have thought. Because they have thought as in that's how we make reality, but as in a constant chatter in their head, they don't, because we make our reality. I'm in training right now. Oftentimes it feels like my brain's getting shut down and I can't even think, but it's because I'm in training right now to be in that space where your brain is just silent until you decide to have a thought which creates. Double checking, and I'm hearing ding, and Eric Archangel is going after my ear right now. So that being said, remember, this is why it's so important that we learn to control our minds, because what I went through could have easily been perceived as really scary. But I've melted away. I've worked really hard on facing a lot of my shit and learning to control my mind and balancing my emotions. So what's coming online for me now, like Eric told me through a friend yesterday, it's baby steps, and I can feel it's baby steps. I can feel this is small compared to where I'm headed, but that's why it has to come away in layers, because it'd be shock to the human system if it didn't. And I can see why, because reality is so much more bigger and beyond than what we realize. And again, that's why it's super important that we learn to control our minds, balance our emotions, and control our minds. So I was laying in bed. I was sitting, so not last night, the night before, I was sitting in bed. I got into bed and I was sitting in bed and I was talking with Eric, and my body started feeling really weird. It wasn't that it was bad. I knew it wasn't bad and it didn't feel bad, but it felt weird and I wasn't used to it. So it was like my entire body, except for my head, felt extremely light, like beyond light. I don't even have the proper human words to explain how my body felt. And still, I can even feel it right now, still feels. My body changed again. And then my head started feeling, and again, it wasn't a bad heaviness, okay? My head started feeling heavy, but it was like a beyond heaviness. And then I started feeling really dizzy, which I know dizziness, when you're feeling really dizzy and disassociated, you're going through like a perception change, which is a reality jump, and you're adjusting to a new normal, okay? So I knew that that's what was going on, but it was more beyond than normal, and it was really overwhelming to a certain extent. I wasn't scared in the sense of I knew it was going, I thought anything bad was happening, but because it was a little overwhelming because it's new. And Eric told me to lay down, and I didn't want to really right away because I knew something else was going to happen, and I was nervous. Again, not because I felt like anything bad was happening, but because I knew it was going to be a little bit bigger than normal. It was going to be a little bit more out of the norm than what I'm used to. And then because I was getting nervous for that, I started spinning, because I know I make my own reality, and it's through the process of thought. And I know if I'm in a state of fear, then I start to play with the energy around me. I start manipulating my world around me, my reality, my illusion around me, into playing within a state of fear. So I started spinning a little bit, and I was trying to call on Eric, because I laid down, I was trying to call on Eric, and I felt this really big mass of energy just sit down on the bed beside me on the left. Now, I've had it where it's felt like someone sat before me. Sorry. I've had it where it has felt like someone has sat on on my bed beside me before. And as I say, on the bed before. Sorry, I got distracted. Someone was calling me. I just got distracted. I have felt where it has felt like someone has sat beside me on the bed, and right away I could feel it was Eric. At one point it felt like I knew I was just with my friend that day. I'd stayed over at her place that night because earlier that day I was with her. It was time for her dog to be transitioned home. He was really not doing well anymore. It was his time. And I woke up that night and I felt him behind me, and I felt him get up and jump over me off the bed. So I felt that stuff before, but this time it was really big. It was really big, and it felt really heavy. And what made me nervous is because I couldn't tell who or what it was. I could feel it wasn't nefarious. I could feel it wasn't bad, but because I have this thing still where I'm like, unless I know what the energy is, it makes me a little like, who are you and what are you? But I had a feeling of what it was, and I'll get into that in a second. Again, though, I knew it wasn't bad, but my own mind was starting to spin. Okay, there's a difference. I knew I was okay, but my mind was starting to spin. All right. So I'm trying to call Eric, and then eventually I also caved and started, because I get a little shy and stuff, calling on Robin Williams, Archangel Raphael, and Yeshua, Jesus. So eventually I caved and started calling on them too. And as I was calling on, and I was calling on them more, and then a second one sat on the bottom left corner of my bed. And then I was like, okay, what's going on? And then I was really calling on them, and that's when I started, because then I couldn't feel them, and then now my mind was really spinning. Again, logically, and I could feel I was okay, but because my mind was spinning and I was scared about being out of control of my own mind, that's where I was starting to panic. And then, and then, because then I couldn't feel really Eric, Yeshua, Robin, and then a third one sat on the bottom right corner of my bed. And then I was like, all right, at that point, I sat up and I turned my light on, and I had to go get Kleenex because I'd been crying. I needed to blow my nose. And I called on Eric, Robin, and Yeshua again. And I was giving them, trying to do the thought and energy work. I was saying, I create my reality. I'm one with them. I send them love. I know that they're love. I know their family. Logically, I know. But again, my mind, I was having problems controlling my mind. So I sat back down, and because they were holding on to, the one beside me was holding on to my hand. Sorry. When I was laying there before I sat up, the one was holding on to my hand, and it was very, 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 very strong grip. I could move though. I wasn't being restricted. I could move, but I could feel how strong it was. And then the one started tickling my one foot, and the other started tickling my other foot. And then I was just like, okay. And so then I sat there. So I got up, got Kleenex, and sat in my bed with the light on. And I got the urge to check my Facebook, and someone had tagged me in a post that had to do with Robin Williams. Someone was imitating Robin Williams, and he was doing this little speech, and it was like this beautiful speech about, he mentioned something about the light, and then he mentioned Yeshua's name. So I knew right away, and then I got the urge to look at pictures of Eric, Archangel Uriel. So I knew that Eric had wiggled his way in through his photos, and then Robin and Yeshua found their way to wiggle in through a friend who tagged me, and that was them saying, we're here, you're safe, you're protected, gave me that reassurance. And then I got the urge to turn on Robin's movie, RV. So I turned it on to fall asleep too. And then I just felt like this blanket of calm just put on me. Like, I can't describe it, that it was like they put this blanket of calm within and on me, and it just settled me right down. And I put on RV. I was eventually able to turn off the light and go to sleep. The next day I did confirm. So what I was thinking and feeling, I'm like, I have a feeling they're Galactics. I have a feeling it's a healing session. I'm also kind of wondering, because I was like, maybe that's Robin, Yeshua, and Eric I'm feeling sitting on the bed, but I'm like, I feel like they're Galactics, but I'm also maybe feeling that they've merged in with them. And then I was getting confirmed, yes, it's Galactic Family. I didn't get a specific name, but really big, well-known names. But they also were like, they're like, you have us under this big cloak, and they took the cloak off, and they're just these small, beautiful light bodies, and they're just like, and they're very much insistent, we are one with you, like you are one with us, like there's no separation, like they're very much like, you are one with us, and we love you. And I could hear in my head also, as this was happening, I could hear in my head saying, we love you. And now there's going to be people out there that will possibly say, well, these beings, they can like pretend and they can project love, and they're fakers. I will not play that game. The only truth is love and peace. So if you're feeling that, go with that, because you're actually playing with real reality. If you're not feeling that, then it's illusion, ego. It's not true. And you do the thought and energy work. Remind yourself, you make your reality. Everything is love, all that stuff. And the thing is, I got through it. I did what I needed to do, and I got through it. And again, I was correct. There was nothing bad happening. I could feel it. And I knew it was logically, I was like, this is a healing session. And I just needed that confirmation the next day. And it was just, again, the only reason why I was panicking is because I felt like I couldn't control my mind with my own fears. But in hindsight, I was controlling it, because it ended up being beautiful. And I woke up the next day and everything's great. In fact, I've been more blasted up. I can feel everything is so much stronger now, with like just seeing things and feeling my spirit team physically. It's really cool. And how my body feels, it's really cool. And then yesterday, I was, so that had happened not last night, the night before. So then yesterday during the day, I think it was during the day yesterday, I'm getting my time is collapsing on me. So it's getting harder and harder to navigate what happened when, but I was napping. So after that from that night, during the day, the next day, I was napping. I went to nap and I laid down, and again I could feel but more sitting around me, and I could feel them holding my hands, my feet touching me. And I just breathed through it. I reminded myself who and what they are. I could see Eric, and anytime I started to feel fear, I talked with him. I said, I'm feeling fear because of this reason, and this reason. I visualized my the dark ball of energy. I put it in his heart chakra. Did the same thing with Robin, Heath, and Michael. And I would do that, and I would calm again, and eventually they got me laughing. Actually, I can't remember how. I can't remember what they did, but they got me laughing somehow, and then eventually I fell asleep. I think I fell asleep. I don't think I got up again. I think I fell asleep. But they ended up getting me laughing. And then last night, so I want to talk about last night, what happened. And again, this is a really good example as to why. So any of those could have easily turned into, if I was actually in a state of fear and I hadn't learned how to, so I was in a state of fear, but if I hadn't learned how to control my mind and know what to do in those situations, understanding that I'm in like a place of like, similar to like the void or dark night of the soul, and all you got to do is call for help and it'll be there, kind of, similar things like that. Doing that, it kept me grounded within truth and real reality, which is love and peace, and I didn't perceive at all being attacked, and I'm totally fine. I wasn't attacked. In fact, I've been blasted up for it. Now, last night something else happened too that was really, 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 it was quite intense. I can see it was cool, but I can see how easily it could have turned into a horror situation if I hadn't melted away the layers I have, if I hadn't gone through the shit that I had, like facing my own shit, working on my shit, learning to control my mind, balancing myself out. I'm still working on balancing my emotions, and I still have shit that I'm working on. Anyone who sees my stuff knows I'm not all the way there, just like anyone else. I'm not in my full awareness and abilities. I still have my ego I'm working on. I still have my illusion that I'm working on when it comes to certain things, just like anyone else. At the same time, I've come a really long way, and I have worked really hard, and that's why I can experience the things I'm experiencing, because I've gotten to this point where I can control at least a certain extent of my mind and my emotions, and I'm aware and I'm educated enough to know what's going on. So last night I was sitting in bed again talking to Eric, and I laid down, and then and I could feel immediately, like it was just, I could feel again my spirit team and the Galactics like all around me, and the first thing they did was like basically grab onto my legs, and like it's like a massage or whatever. It's just like this immediate deep relaxation, and it's just pleasure. That's the only way I can say it. It just feels fucking good. And then all of a sudden, I know how this is gonna sound, but I'm embarrassed, and I'm almost wanting to restrict myself, but I'm getting the push. I can feel the push to talk about it. We have to. It's important, and this is what I'm here for. I know. Shit. Okay. So what it felt like, I'm going to explain what it felt like, and then I'm going to explain what it actually was, and then I'm going to explain what it could have been if I hadn't learned to control my reality. Big parallel to something like Stranger Things, season 4, which is why I've talked about there's truth in Stranger Things when you take out the fear programming, okay? So I was laying there, they'd been going after my legs, massaging them, making me feel really relaxed. My spirit team, my Galactic Family, and it was a healing session. I know it was a healing session. And then all of a sudden it felt like just one giant penetration into me, if you know what I mean, where it was just going in and stayed there. And it was just this feeling of pleasure that I cannot even describe. It was beyond. And it got to the point where my back was literally arched so high that I swear the only thing that was touching the bed was like the top of my head and my hands and the bottom of my feet. I was almost, and even then, those were almost floating off the bed. I was almost floating off my bed. And the whole thing felt very good. And then my mouth was also like just hanging open, and my head was just back. And then finally I just kind of like collapsed and laid there flat, and I was like, I swear to God, I just died and came back. And I could tell, and even like now, like I can tell, like I'm in a whole new, something's just different today, but in a good way. It was like, that was really big and really significant. And what that was I got penetrated by the light. I was like, and then that was like, so that was, and actually it had, and even in one of these sessions leading up to that, it might have even been this one. I think it was the one before that. I was in a visual with where my team was all like the Galactics. They were, I think it was that point, the one where I was laying in bed right before I was napping, like during the day before the thing that happened that first night. And I was in it, and then I was in a visual of just like all this darkness, my own shit expelling out of me. And then that night I had that where the light was like completely just burst, like was pushed right through me. And it's, again, remember, you know, a lot of people end up being surprised when they find out how sexual, spiritual awakening can be, but especially when you get your Kundalini rising and your root chakra and sacral chakra is being healed, it can feel very sexual. Now, remember, the body is a map of the consciousness. So, you know, if it feels good, go with it and enjoy it feeling good. Absolutely. And just remember, though, it's not necessarily sexual, even if it feels that way. It's just our body's a map of the consciousness, and our pieces of our consciousness are being worked on. And in the physical, it can manifest in certain ways. But again, we make our own reality, and everything we go through, we've wanted it in some way, and we've asked for it, we've signed up for it. So now circling into why this is so important that I had learned to control my mind before this happened. If you think about it, and for anyone who's watched the current season of Stranger Things, and I mean, really in a lot of different horror movies, you see that whole thing where someone's being possessed and they're raised up in the air and their back is arched and their mouth's hanging open, their eyes are rolled back. That's very similar to what I went through last night. And as that was happening, I was thinking, I'm like, this feels good. And I know that I'm being healed, and I can tell how it's beautiful and it's positive. At the same time, I was like, at the same time, if I wasn't in control of my mind, I can see how this easily would have turned into a horror scene movie. Like a movie from a horror scene from a movie, or like Stranger Things. Which is why it's interesting, because I just shared the song of the day from Eric, that Running Up That Hill or whatever, that song in Stranger Things. I know it's not from Stranger Things, it's like an older song. I know, but just for that comparison, because that Eric's been playing that and that scene in my head. And now I know why, because first of all, the parallel of the truth, you know, when she's lost in that, or even when you're just lost, and when they're lost in the upside down, that's just navigating through oblivion. And when she's running toward the light, that's us waking up, remembering, and just hold on to the truth of which is love and peace. And then that bursts through. You know, it's when every time I felt a moment of being scared and I was able to calm myself down, I was able to then see the truth again. And oftentimes I get laughing, you know, they'll end up like saying that they're booping at my nose, or, you know, I can feel the love. And again, for those who are listening to this and going to say, well, you're just being tricked, I won't play that game. That's not truth. It's illusion, and I know exactly where that leads. I've already been down that route. I've had it where this stuff's happened, and I've woken up in actual pain, and things have happened to me that is quote unquote bad. I won't play that. I'm past that. I am an advanced being, and I am here to show you guys where you're breaking out of and going into. And it's not that I'm more special or it's a hierarchy thing. It's just, it is what it is. In fact, I want to read something here that I shared on Facebook. Just give me 1 second here. Okay, so this is really cool. I don't do these very often, but I really got a really strong urge to do this. It's one of those autocomplete things. So it was in my past life and then you use autocomplete. This is what mine said. And again, it's no coincidence, it's only synchronicities. And this is just talking, this is another testament as to where I'm at. And again, it's not a hierarchy thing, it's just what I signed up for while I'm within this to help. That's all. So, in my past life, and then it auto-completed this. In my past life, I have been, and many currently still are, I have been, and many currently still are, in the upside down, which is oblivion and amnesia, and playing with the illusion and ego as we are just projecting it onto mirrors and reflecting back at ourselves like we are falling apart from the Garden of Eden. I'm still breaking out of some illusion, but for the most part, I'm getting there. True reality is coming online faster and faster and faster for me. And it's because I'm working hard and I'm not indulging in that stuff. I still do in moments where I'm clinging onto it, but when it comes to, you know, the whole I'm being attacked or controlled or bad things can happen to me, I'm really, really, really working on not holding on to that. It gets a little more difficult when it comes to from human to human, but when it comes to that other stuff, it's energy. and I make my reality. And that even goes with human to human too. But for some reason, it's a bit more difficult with humans for me. But that's just it though. I've always been so much more connected to beyond stuff. My entire life, I've looked up at the sky, talking to my galactic family, saying, please take me. I don't want to be here anymore. And now my wish has come true. My bedroom, when I'm in my bedroom now, the past few times when this has been happening, it looks physically with my eyes through the 3D, it looks like my bedroom, but in my mind's eye, and I can physically feel it, I'm not in my bedroom. They've somehow altered my room, and it's like this circular room. Last night it had this really pretty blue glow to it. It was really pretty. But it's like this circular room, and it's like my friend said, it's very benign, it's loving. It feels almost like a hospital type feeling. Not really though. Yes and no. The bed felt like a hospital bed, but it didn't feel like a hospital room. But it felt like a spaceship. It felt like a spaceship. It felt like I was on a hospital bed, but other than that, it felt like a spaceship. I was in some sort of room on a spaceship somehow. I don't know how it works, but they manipulated my room, and I was not in my bedroom anymore. It looked like it physically, but I could see and feel it wasn't. So, this is why it's so important to learn to control your mind, guys. Because this stuff, reality is so much bigger and more beyond, and it has to come away in layers. It has to melt on. It has to come online in layers, and we have to melt our stuff away in layers, because you blast up too fast without learning to control your mind and your emotions, and you literally live in your own made up hell. When you live within truth, it's really fucking cool, and it's really beautiful, and it's so big, and it's so beyond. So work on controlling your emotions, balancing your emotions, work on controlling your mind. You make your reality. The external is the internal projector and projected outwards. This is why it's so important. I don't talk about things that don't work for me and that I haven't experienced, like as in trying to give advice and about reality with where I'm at, how things work, controlling your mind, the stuff that you can do to help yourself. I only talk about the things that I know work. I wouldn't be suggesting these things and talking about them if this wasn't truth. For at least, if this wasn't truth, I was going to say for me, but I also I do know that there is a base truth to all of reality, and one of those base truths is everything is a simulation. Outside of the simulation home, it's all love. The only thing that's true is love and peace, even within the simulations. That is one base truth of all reality. The only thing that's true is love and peace. That is a base truth. So, all right, guys, I love you all so much. Thank you for listening. And as always, have a wonderful now.